Hey, everybody, and welcome to Waffle Talk, the show where we talk about dice camera action, the long-running D&D show on the D&D channel run by Chris Perkins. And as you can see, we have two super special guests. These two were on the last episode. They played GIF characters, Thunder and Lightning, GIF being the hippo people from Spelljammer, the same race as Warrington Munt. They also, I don't know, they were authors of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, an adventure you might have heard of. So today we are going to ask them stuff about, the show and their characters, and then towards the end, maybe we'll ask them a little bit about Dragon Heist. So anybody in the chat, we can see what you're writing on the screen. So please, if you have any questions or comments, throw them up there, and I'll try to grab them and throw them in there as we go. So, James Introcaso and James Joey Hayek. We'll call James Hayek Joey just to make things a little easier. Thank you both very, very much for doing the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us on. I can't wait to talk with you about the Waffle Crew, about dice camera action, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, anything you care.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And hello to Lukatrupa and Ravenna and Sima. And welcome also, Shauna. Thanks for doing this in the holidays. I really
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Absolutely.
Shauna, can you recap this episode, please?
All right. Quick recap. Strix and Diath are dragged into a little bit of a heist created by Hedgeman Beestinger and his two bodyguards, Thunder and Lightning, played by our wonderful guests, and who have to break out the Beestinger's sister out of a prison camp. So through family obligation, they try and break into the camp. They are somewhat less successful. Many explosions later, Rosie Beesinger appears on the scene and kind of regulates the situation, gets the hegemon to leave, and the two basically underneath the two GIF, who are going to basically be his protection from now on, which is maybe a punishment. And yep, that's where we ended that one. It was wonderful. So many GIF and so many explosions, and no one died.
We came close.
Surprising part.
Oh yes, yeah,
You did. That's right. You did almost die.
Oh no, the explosion.
He took like 90 points of damage. How many hit
Not
points?
instant death.
Yeah. How many hit points did you have, Joey? Do you remember?
60.
Oh,
Were your stats like? Did you make GIF characters, or did you use the stats from what was it, Mordenkainen's? There.
Actually, both James and I were told by Chris to go wild creating the personality and backstory of our characters, but to use the monster stat block for GIF from Mordenkainen's Tower of Foes.
Oh, okay,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Simon says there's one thing I really want to know. Did the GIF forget their spaceship? I don't.
Oh, sure. That's a good question, because we did get teleported magically back to the Rock of Brawl. So,
Are you sure? I thought we were teleported back to our vessel.
oh, maybe that's the case. That may very well be the case. Yes. So I don't know. Chris Perkins will reveal.
Maybe a bit unclear that one.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, Joey, that we were probably transported back to the vessel. That makes more sense.
The ship was called the Whimsy, right? Or Mimsy. And the
Mimsy.
captain was the Fat Rabbit. Like, who did they meet the Fat Rabbit? Do we know who that is?
It's all very Lewis Carroll.
Yeah, it was like, the fat rabbit, you say? And I'm like racking my brain because there's like so many Spelljammer like animal races. I'm like, do they have rabbit people in Spelljammer? I couldn't remember, but yeah, that was weird. It seems like Chris had made up some stuff that we didn't get to see, which is pretty. Yeah, that's right. I forgot you almost died. That's crazy. But,
Regrettable.
Yeah.
It was a tragic occurrence.
'cause
But
it's-
I didn't die because of a very interesting ability that Commodore Warrington Munt pulled out, unknown to everyone else, which was what I can only assume was him encouraging my latent sense of duty by shouting at me in the face until I was revived.
Yeah, the mini like warlord aspect of Warrington Munt.
Yeah, or a healing word that we didn't know about before.
Right.
yeah, like a war. I think you said like a 4th edition warlord, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my favorite 4th edition class. I had a warlord character. It was freaking. I loved
Oh,
it.
so did I. So good.
I always had made someone else make a basic attack, and you could stack all the bonuses and stuff. I loved it. It was awesome. So how long ago were you contacted about doing this show?
Ooh, I think it was back in August, right at the end of August.
Wow.
We were contacted, or maybe the very beginning of September.
I'm digging through my email. You can keep.
Yeah, it was.
This was a long
Yeah.
time ago.
I think I want to say because I was in a hotel, and I remember being in a hotel, and I went to 2 weddings back to back. One that was the last week in August, and one that was the first week in September. So it was one of those, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it was, and it was great. I definitely thought like, oh, it would always be so cool to be on Dice Camera Action and that sort of thing. But I don't know that I ever knew it was going to be a possibility. Does that make sense?
Well, you ran a game for most of the group a while back, right?
Yeah.
You ran
did.
Merrick.
Merrick Blackman's
Right.
Death in the Cornfields.
Yeah.
So that came about because I was working with Roll20 at the time, as I still do occasionally now,
Mhm.
and I was hosting one of the games for Roll20Con,
Mhm.
and they had arranged for the Waffle crew to come on and do a trek through Barovia, but Chris Perkins wasn't super familiar with Roll20 as a platform. And
Mhm.
so he said he wanted to play, could someone else run it? And Roll20 asked me, they were like, hey, you're already running a 5th edition game. Do you want to run another one? And I said, yeah. And they were like, okay, it's for Dice Camera Action, and Chris Perkins is going to play instead of run. And here's the details. Pick something from the DM's Guild and run it. And I was like, oh, this is very different. I don't know if I'm prepared at all for this. And I did have like a little bit of a freak out before we started.
Mhm.
And we were chatting and doing a sound chest and stuff. And I said to him, Chris, this is a little bit like giving mass for the Pope. Like, I am not at all comfortable running a game for you. And he said, I'm the easiest player in the world because I know exactly what you're going through. And that was definitely true. He did not do anything other than, participate in the story. And he's actually a pretty laid back player, at least in the one game experience I had with him.
As long as we're talking about Chris Perkins as a player, I had a moment at PAX Unplugged where I was able to talk with Jeremy Crawford, host Acquisitions Inc., for an interview I did with him on D&D Beyond, covering the new AC Inc. Trade handover. And he talked a little bit about Chris Perkins' rogue character who plays in Jeremy's home game. And I don't recall his name. It's in the interview somewhere. Go to D&D Beyond and check it out. But he described Chris Perkins as being like his Patrick Rothfuss, insofar as they both play rogues who are able to get away with anything they want. And I have this sneaking suspicion that it's because Chris Perkins knows exactly what the DM wants. And I think Patrick Rothfuss does this too, that as long as they're willing to play along with the DM and not ruffle their feathers too much, the DM will allow them to do whatever they want as long as it's in pursuit of that goal. Because they're teamed up at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally the truth when you see them, because I do think Pat Rothfuss gets away with a lot. but every time he does something, it is extremely entertaining. And so I can imagine Chris being the same, especially at a table with someone like Jeremy, who he's lifelong friends with, So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I'm way behind in the chat. Sorry, everybody. The 90 damage explosion panicked some people, apparently. Yeah, because Chris usually puts out, it's almost like he puts out a hit on the guest stars.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he'll take one good shot at you every time you're on.
Yeah, but he's going soft. No one's died in ages.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
That's right. We're safe now.
The last tweet I said.
Don't say that.
I hope
Because
next guest might not be so lucky.
Yeah, we're paying it forward.
That's right.
everybody loves Warrington Munt, so the idea of bringing 2 more GIF in was like really cool, and we got to learn a little bit more about Warrington Munt. And so now there's 2 more GIF, and I know in the chat people loved your characters, and I think people definitely want to see them come back at some point. And I hope, I love Spelljammer, so I really hope we get to see, your I would love to see the Waffle crew on a Spelljammer, and you guys show up, and you can have like a ship-to-ship battle or something like that. I'd love to see how Chris handles a Spelljammer battle with the 5e rules, Let's see, where can I watch this? You're asking about the Roll20 special game. Do you know, James? Is that that'd be on the Roll20 channel, right?
Yeah, so it's Roll20 YouTube channel has it, which I think is youtube.com/roll or MS Roll20. Or I also have posted links on my blog, worldbuilderblog.com. Shameless plug. So yeah, and I think Joey, I know you had the same experience too. Chris asked us, did we want to be on the show, and we said yes, and then said, oh, it's going to be something related to the bee stingers, and we were like, yeah. And then probably maybe 3 weeks ago sent us this note that was like, hey, and you're going to be GIF. And we it was like every dream coming true, one after the other kind of.
It was beautiful. Every new message from Chris simultaneously laid waste to all of our plans that we'd made before, and made us more excited to start from scratch again. Because from the very beginning, I think our plan is, when all we knew was you're going to be related to the bee stingers, that we're going to be mobsters, but we're also going to be mobsters that are like Laurel and Hardy. And so, little bits of that, we always had that comic duo underpinning going through our minds, but the exact shape it took was nebulous always, until it finally solidified into GIF.
Yeah, and I think it's part of since we have worked on Dragon Heist together, and this is actually even before Dragon Heist, the very first paid job I got in RPGs was given to me by Joey. So I wrote to him, and when he was the editor for Insider, and said, here's an article I want to write, what do you think? And he took the pitch, and we worked together on that article and everything, and we worked together on a bunch of stuff, and then we worked together on Dragon Heist. So we have a little bit of a unofficial partnership on certain things together, and because we have the same first name, I think we often in people's minds get lumped together as the Jameses. So it was a fun chance to be able to play on that a little bit. I am not kidding when I say that he is the good looking one and the smart one. So it's always fun, I feel like, to work with you too. It's a blast.
Oh, well, thank you. And pish posh on those descriptions. You're good looking and funny and talented and all of that stuff too. And I always enjoy working with you.
Thank you.
So let's just, we can keep complimenting each other all day, but we can talk about D&D.
All right. Let's see. So Scotty, thank you very much for subscribing. Super appreciate it. Lisa, hello. I always love it when Lisa is in the chat. Lisa Chen. We got to play D&D with Lisa Chen at PAX Unplugged. It was awesome. Look at Troopa. There's 8-foot-something rabbit people in Gamma World. So maybe he grabbed a Gamma World.
Hoppers, I think they're called.
Is that what they're called? Hoppers? Dice and Dinosaurs. I remember that interview. I'd love to be on the fly. Yeah, I would love to hear about Jeremy's home game. I always like when people like Chris Perkins or Jeremy. I don't know. you know how Chris used to write about his home game, Iomandra. I used to love reading about it, and I would love to read about Jeremy Crawford's sessions every.
I take tremendous joy in going through the old archive of the DM's experience. And if you don't know what the DM's experience is, it was during the 4th edition era. Chris Perkins ran a campaign in his home brew world of Iomandra, and he wrote about it. He ran 2 games, one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and every week he would write a little blurb about one of those games and then spin off into a big, 2,000 word article about some little thing that happened in that game. And that's tremendously inspirational to me, both as, someone who wants to learn from it and apply it to my home game, and also one who wants to write like that and find ideas like that and turn the littlest bit of information into an explanatory experience. I guess I'm just kind of blabbering about myself now, but doing something like that for D&D Beyond is something that I've wanted to do for quite some time. And as we come into the new year, I hope I'll be able to do that and take my own home campaign and share with you experiences that I've learned while actually playing D&D.
That's what I loved about that was like, he ran games. He ran 2 games a week. And it was so nice because DMing is so hard, right? It's so hard to be a good DM. And so all of those things he wrote about a lot of times were like things you might be going through or that you had noticed or something you were struggling with and you didn't even know. And he was kind of putting words to it and explaining how to work through it. And like, it was tremendously helpful to me. And I think even I know it's 4th edition, but I think anybody could read that and get, it's not really rules specific. It's more about handling a group of players and running a fun game, which is really hard, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that column I think was called the Dungeon Master Experience, right?
Yeah, we have a question in chat right now asking where to find it, and that's not easy actually, because the Wizards site changed. A lot of those archives have been buried or lost. But if you just search for Dungeon Master's Experience Archive online, you can go to the sageadvice.eu site, and they have a link to a PDF that has, I'd say, about like half of what he wrote for that column, and the rest. You used to be able to find it on the Wayback Machine. I don't think you are anymore. I think a lot of it is just lost to time. But what exists is all, sterling. It's all good.
Yeah. It's really. I learned a lot from reading that as a DM, and I can tell, Sean, that you definitely have as well, and Joey, and so it was good stuff. It's a great thing to be able to have creators that are willing to share their experience. In fact, I don't know that it exists anymore either, but I know Jeremy Crawford's campaign used to have an Obsidian portal link, of all things, which is totally crazy. And I don't know where that is anymore or if it still exists. But
listen, this could transition easily into a very good rant about preserving internet content, and I think we could all air grievances about that.
Definitely. So it's but yeah. So let me ask you both, as fans of the show, were you surprised to first? Do you watch any C Team stuff, and were you surprised to learn about bee stingers in space?
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I kind of intermittently keep up with C Team, but yeah, that was super interesting. It's always fun to like kind of see like how far that goes, and if any of those character relations like dip in and out of like different settings, like the strict stuff with the Planescape or the DS stuff with the Planescape, and then like it's just like having like little anchors into these official settings. I love that stuff. It's so good.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, if you're willing. So Chris has dropped some hints about something of an interstellar halfling diaspora going on in the Perkins verse, to use a term. And I want to know, like, how much of that have we heard about, seen about? Because my exposure to DCA is minimal so far. I'm very slowly working my way through the first season.
Shauna, do you know anything about that?
I don't think there's been very much. I think the most we've gotten from from the Spelljammer stuff is through Warrington and through his ship. I think the only taste of that stuff we've had is that there's a war with the Mind Flayers happening. But I think we're probably, with Warrington staying on and with your GIF and the Bee Stingers, we're probably gonna hear about that pretty soon because of all the Bee Stinger stuff in there eventually.
I took some notes, and that was one of the questions actually I was going to have for you two.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said a sinister race is wiping out halflings, and it was like, really? As he's never really mentioned that before, but I think he was saying halfling worlds.
Right.
And it's
the
like,
halfling worlds are being destroyed.
Who is doing that, and why? Why would you want to wipe out halflings?
So it's Warrington Munt is the mastermind behind it all. It's a GIF war. No, it's a good question, and it's one of those things that it's like, we know nothing other than sort of what was presented. Everything we knew about it was thrown out during the show, and I wonder, is there something being set up? I don't like, who knows, for a future adventure? That's gonna be released?
Yeah. Is it 2019? Is it 2020? Is it beyond? I mean,
yeah. That might
Yeah.
be it. That might be a plot from like a future adventure for a few years from now.
All I can hope for is that it's my best pals, the Mind Flayer, doing this, so I can pester Chris Perkins and Adam Lee to let me write this adventure. Just incessantly bug them over email.
You are the elder brain when it comes to Mind Flayers, so that would be excellent to see.
I'm definitely the loudest fan of them.
Most others are telepathic, so it makes sense.
Maz is a very big Mind Flayer fan also, so you have some competition.
Well, Maz made this for me. It's
nice,
delightful creation that Maz shipped internationally down here.
Maz made me this Modron.
Huge.
Pretty good, huh? It's my hand puppet.
Little rat somewhere. Where it went.
There's some people who have some things about the halfling. Dice and Dinosaurs. There was the episode with the therapist that was working with a Mind Flayer, or the Mind Flayer that was working with the Xanathar. Not sure if those are related though. Yeah, we never found out what the deal was with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some Mind Flayers kind of messing with the group. Sima, he used the word human when describing the race. At first I was thinking Gith, as in Gith Yankee, but the face he said, a human race, is making me wonder. Now it could be like in that second edition Spacefarers guide, where you had all the player options, they had a whole bunch of factions of spacefaring people, and there was some that were like racial, like genocide. Gosh, I can't remember. It started with an X or something like that, but so maybe it's a human faction like that. But like, why would you want? That's what I don't get. Why do you want to wipe out halflings? Why would you do that? It doesn't. It's weird, right?
Right. Well, and so it begs the question: is this part of something even larger? Are halflings being wiped out, or is something even more sinister going on? Are they being mutated into something? Mini Mind Flayers.
That might be it.
Oh, tiny Mind Flayers.
Yeah,
they could put them
in
like
adorable.
The 2 Marrow Genesis tanks, in the Mind Flayer homeworld, and transform them like they did to the Gith. Lookatrupa could also be something pertaining to Bishaba, since her whole deal is misfortune. Oh, and 5e halflings are noted to be unnaturally lucky.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a awesome idea, Lookatrupa.
That's just the kind of weird that I think we get to see in 5th edition, a little bit more, which is cool.
At one point, I think Chris has mentioned this before. At one point, he was considering creating a hardcover adventure which involved Mind Flayers in Nautilus ships bombarding Toril from orbit with psychic waves. But that adventure, I believe, was scrapped for being too out there. It just wasn't quite grounded enough.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting because the thing that got Warrington Munt's ship was like a Mind Flayer ship, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Chris is going to use that idea on the show.
I love to see that. I love to
He
see
has
like
said a lot of times that
player ships.
he takes ideas that didn't make it into books and he uses them on the show. So maybe we're gonna see. You know?
Hey, we could be onto something here.
Yeah, that's
man.
always
It's
my
just-
little game whenever I watch this thing is like, is this like a hint? Is this a hint to like future content? Like,
Yeah.
the Planescape stuff
Yeah.
was like driving me crazy. It's like,
Yeah, he described the city of Sigil
Mhm.
on an episode, and he said there was a train there. And it
Mhm.
was like, there's a train in Sigil, you know, like I guess like an Eberron train. But it's like, you know, that's it. You know, and who knows? You know, because I guess they work on these products years in advance. So, you know, it might be years before we get any more
You just
details.
had it on the mind, I guess.
But I love that. I love it when they do that.
And they also can switch things. One reason they work on stuff so far in advance is so they have the flexibility to say, you know, like, this one's not quite ready, but this one is, and we'll shift things around. So,
Oh.
you know, who knows what we'll see next. But I do think one of the things that is really cool is they are pushing the multiverse hard, right? They are pushing the idea of like, there's more than one D&D world out there, and the default setting is all of these worlds are connected. That's awesome. That's incredibly cool.
Like it's
And-
one big setting
Yeah.
that has all of the settings in one umbrella. Like it all counts, you know?
Yeah.
Even like the ones, you know, like Red
Yeah.
Steel, one of the ones where I don't know anything about Red Steel. I really don't know anything about Birthright, but they're there, you know?
Yep.
And who knows, someday maybe we'll go there, you know?
They
That's cool.
exist, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron, right, is a way of saying like Eberron is part of this. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
All right. Jaffa Criday says there's a level in Dungeon of the Mad Mage that relates to some of this stuff. Yeah, I haven't gone through that book yet. I'm like so behind. But yeah, I did see that there. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but there's one level where you go somewhere. Sly Flourish, hello. Thanks for jumping in. Everyone wants the Mind Flayers dead. They've left a lot of ruined races behind them. Githyanki, Githzerai, Kuotoa, Dwergar. The list is long. True. That would be cool if all of the races banded together to try to take them down. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, but I love the idea of like the halflings, the luck. Maybe when there's so many halflings in existence, like they affect the overall probability of the multiverse or something. And then if you know, and like maybe if they're all gone, like things get real bad or something. I think that's really cool.
It's a pretty funny
or-
idea.
Or someone believes luck is finite and the halflings are sucking up all the luck.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that is a great idea. DM Dave, maybe they're heightists. Entirely possible. Maybe they're tall people who just don't like short people.
They are the smallest.
Or maybe it's that mind flayers can fit more of them into their tubes for transformation. More mind flare for your book. You know?
Oh, the stack.
it's more efficient that way. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like a mind flayer doesn't need to be medium sized, right? They're dangerous no matter what size. So yeah, that would be
I would love
Halflings have the hors d'oeuvre sized brains. They just need more.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a harder meal for them.
I would love to see some mind players that are like halfling size. That would be very funny.
Oh,
You
that'd be scary.
fool, you know. The mind flayers want to eradicate second breakfast. That is possible. Ramrod, halflings. Oh, Ramrod, halflings leave me feeling a little shorted. You got me. Good job, buddy. You get inspiration. Look at Drupa. It might also be something tied to Dark Sun, because the one behind the effective destruction of that planet, Rajat, is a halfling. Then again, Athos' sphere has historically been extremely difficult to leave or enter. I don't know. In 5th, I know in 2nd edition that Dark Sun was in a closed crystal sphere, like you couldn't get in or out.
There's in the Planescape saying there's a section of like Sigil that's like kind of like Dark Sun or Athos, like refugees and stuff like that. So there are characters and NPCs from there that I think are in the multiverse. So it's a possibility.
Yeah, I know in I think it was Nemesis that Chris Perkins wrote in 2nd. There's a person from Dark Sun there, like a crazy dude. So
Man,
they can get in or out.
It would be wild to see the Waffle crew interacting with anything in Athos. That would
That would be
That would be odd.
That would be so weird.
I'm interested in Planescape as the natural conclusion of D&D play. I think even from the very beginning, even the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide has sort of implied this, that the adventures don't simply scale like they might in an MMO like World of Warcraft, where you keep fighting tougher and tougher pigs, but you scale beyond the terrestrial challenges of a single planet. And I think that's always kind of been in the idea as we get to, even in old basic D&D with like the immortal tier, you go beyond the standard. But I don't think we've ever seen it pushed like this. Or I suspect we will see it pushed like this whenever. Surely it's not an if, but a when a Planescape supplement comes out.
Yeah, because like the degree that like as Dice Camera Action has kind of gone on, the amount of Planescape stuff has increased. Like it blew my mind. Like at last Unplugged, or the first one that they went there, and this is way more than I thought I was going to get from it, and it's just increased from there on.
It's like I want to see an adventure where they go to like a bunch of different settings in the same adventure, like Al-Qadim, Greyhawk. Like jump to like 5. I guess that would be a Spelljammer adventure where you go to all the different worlds and stuff. But I'd really like to see that. I think that'd be really cool because I like how 5th embraces all the old settings. But like on the DM's Guild, you can't use them until they're in a product, right? So like you can make Barovia products, but I don't think you can make Greyhawk, right?
No Greyhawk. You can do right now on the DM's Guild. You can do Eberron, the Forgotten Realms, and Barovia. And that's it at the moment.
And Ravnica.
Oh right, yes, of course.
Oh, and Ravnica.
Yes,
Ravnica, which is super exciting to see. There's this other world, and what was interesting about Ravnica was Jeremy Crawford in AC Inc., right, describing the Acquisitions Inc. team going from the Forgotten Realms to Ravnica, that they left one multiverse and entered another, which that's like, okay, so there's also more than one multiverse now out there.
That's crazy.
From one to the next.
Also that it's like it's D&D content in the Magic stuff, which has been like, for as far as I've played, it's been kind of like these separate things. That's exciting to kind of get those things intermingled a little bit.
Yeah,
more than one multiverse.
Yeah,
because like Magic is like, it's that plane thing. Like people go from plane to planes, and each block is a different like plane of existence. So it leaves it wide open.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if they have 2 multiverses, then you're not getting too much D&D chocolate in the Magic peanut butter, right? But you can still cross those streams in great ways, so which is amazing.
So, all right, how do you get from one multiverse to another? How did they do it on the Acquisitions Inc. show?
Regrettably.
Yeah. They touched a globe and threw up as they were hurled across one multiverse to the next, right?
Well, and they touched an artifact from a sort of multiversal planar orrery in Ravnica that had somehow made it to Toril. And actually, Asmodeus himself pulled Strix out of that warp, out of that vortex, and said, "You cannot yet leave this multiverse." And she was spared, in big quotes, from escaping.
Dang.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Asmodeus and Strix? What's going on with that?
Well, she is a tiefling. I mean, there's something going on with the fact that she's a Skizix. And, the relationship there is fascinating, especially with like how little we know about DF's past, and obviously his family being at odds and that sort of thing. So I'm excited to meet DF's dad whenever. DF's
dad. There's a lot of really good stuff we're kind of this. It's like loaded up. You know, you don't know when we're going to get it, but you're going to get it at some point. And it's always fun because like Chris is really hard to guess. You know, if you guess, I'm usually wrong. You know, and it's just like I have no idea what, you know, like DS keys, the whole Skizix Lorcatha thing. Oh, the thing actually, the story I'm most excited about in the whole show is part of Diath's soul is in a box in Shemeshka's mansion. And it's like I'm just waiting for like the heist episode where the group tries to break in to Shemeshka's mansion and steal the rest of his soul. And I'm also interested to see like what is that, like what can you do with a piece of a soul? You know what I mean? Like what can you do with it? I don't know. You know. So
it's going to be interesting to see because the characters do keep leveling up, right? That eventually this show may come to an end, right? Like some sort of formal end, and it will be very interesting to see what that is and how they do that, given how long this one story has run and will continue to run. There's so many other things that need to be answered, and I also suspect that Chris has ideas about things, but doesn't set them in stone until they're said aloud, so that he can keep his plans flexible.
At the Waffle Crew Q&A at PAX, there was a lot of questions about that, about the end of the show. What if the characters die? What are you going to do when you hit level 20? And the group has said they specifically asked Chris to level them slower because, you know, once they hit 20, it's over. So they have been leveling much slower now.
Yeah, they've had like one level in like the last it's been 20. It's been a while. It's been a long time since they've leveled again.
I'm thinking like this will go at least 200 episodes, maybe 250, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
we might not even be. Well, we're probably halfway through, but you know.
Well, surely in those next 3 episodes, there's enough room for 2 more GIF.
I agree.
Of course. Yes.
People wanted a lot of people in the chat wanted a spin-off show featuring the GIF in Spelljammer. So,
well, I mean, that's happened before. Like side characters get like episodes every once in a while.
Yeah, Binwin died. You know, someone mentioned earlier in the chat that Binwin died on the show, and since that, maybe Chris is pulling back a little bit on the murder after Bin, because that was pretty traumatic.
That's a big death. You're kind of sated for a while when you have a big death like that. He brought Binwin into this thing, and
not merely killed, but disintegrated too. Is that right? Yeah.
That was not.
Yeah, that's why he only dealt 90 damage to Joey. Because he's feeling back.
If he'd been feeling feisty, we would have seen 120 out of him.
That's right. Old softy Perkins.
He's just, okay, they're both on the wagon. Now's the time.
How many can I get?
He just, boom! He multicolored fireball explosion, you know? And you guys are just like, ah! Yeah.
But the great part about that is I'm not even angry. I'm not even mad. Like, I think that is perhaps near the top of good things that could have happened in that session, is having my face blasted off in this explosion.
Lisa points out that Ravenloft in general is a-okay on the DM's Guild.
Oh, sure. Yes. Not just Barovia.
We are seeing a new Ravenloft, all Ravenloft show, Into the Mists, coming up in the not too distant future.
TK is running that, right?
Yes.
Oh, and I think Lisa's on that show.
Lisa's on the
you could find those cards at PAX Unplugged. I got one of those cards.
Yes, I got one too.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Hi, Aya. Yep, Spelljammer Adventure. Yes, the Uberverse is what... Oh, Ravenna wants to call the multiple... Yeah, there's the card.
There it is.
Yeah. Ravenna wants to call the multiple universes the Uberverse. I guess when you have different multiverses, that kind of explains away how you could cross over with Gamma World...
I mean, they also
Star Frontiers, or
they went to the Wizard's office as well, so that's somewhere.
That's true.
Multiverses.
You know, Eberron has a different set of planes. Does that mean that Eberron would be in a different multiverse?
Could be.
So I think Eberron is considered one of the worlds of the material plane, but I think they have like some sort of weird cosmology that like they've been fractured off kind of, and they're a little cut off from everywhere else. And there's a little bit about it in the Wayfinder's Guide that sort of helps explain Eberron's place in the multiverse's cosmology. Which, yeah.
What should we call this multiple multiverse? Shall we call it the Omniverse? What words can we use to describe this in a efficient manner?
The Nom verse.
The Wizard's verse.
Right, yeah.
The Wizard, the WotC verse. Let's see.
I do have a question, Sean and Shauna, for you, and Joey for you as well. So Chris Perkins yesterday sent out a tweet that said, "Hey, Waffle fam, rest up. The back half of Dice Camera Action Season 4 is going to be effing insane." Has it not already been? It's insane.
It's been effing insane, but like I think he's given, like the way I've kind of like seen like this section of the season, it's like get your relationships together, get ready, because like this time of like being like domestic is going to be over and it's going to get rough. So like all this fun with like the bakery with the kids, it's just to kind of like get steeled up. So yeah, I'm just awaiting, like, yeah, just crazy.
I'm thinking that Chris has kind of set up a story where the body of Evelyn's dad is down in Undermountain, and there's this cult of Shar, and I think one of the levels involves the cult of Shar. And
Chris, Dylan wrote that level, yes.
Indeed.
So Chris has said, I think that they're going down there, and Chris has said the very bottom levels of Undermountain are insane. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking we're going to go pretty far down and learn some stuff about Evelyn's dad and the cult of Shar and evil Evelyn, who I love, and also I would guess if he's saying that I mean we haven't seen Shemeshka in a long time.
They have her stuff. They have not given her back the items that she wanted, so she could have appeared at any point.
So I think, and then if he also throws in whatever Asmodeus's ongoing interest in Strix, and the Skizix Lorcatha stuff, if all of that is in the next 30 episodes, that's pretty epic. But they still have to wrap up the Stone of Galore stuff, which they have not done yet. So that's going to take at least a few episodes, right? So
have we heard anything of the Shadow Desk family in DCA yet?
No.
I seem to remember that name cropping up. Maybe I'm just thinking of Undermountain.
No.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Hey, that reminds me. Dylan, who is usually on Waffle Talk, he couldn't be here today because he's doing Christmas stuff. But he wanted James. All right, so Joey wrote on D&D Beyond about Skullport. And Joey, you had some ideas on Skullport as Las Vegas meets 1984. And you mentioned a game of tentacle billiards.
Yes.
Can you say more about your vision of Skullport?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I think I went into pretty good detail about this over on D&D Beyond. But so in the process of designing Waterdeep Dragon Heist, James Introcaso, Chris Perkins, and I met for half an hour every week on Fridays, basically to show our manuscripts, talk about what happened next, and that sort of thing. And ultimately, you'll find that there is nothing on Skullport itself in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Originally, there was going to be a pretty sizable section on Skullport, and specifically one little part of it called Illithid Lane, and a tavern called the Guts and Garters. And Guts and Garters is still in Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's one location in Skullport, but it was much expanded, or expanded might not be the word. I made it up, and it found its way into Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And ultimately, Waterdeep Dragon Heist donated a not small size of its page count to Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which just needed more room. Oh. And I can only assume that a lot of that stuff got cut basically for space. But also it was to fit with a slightly different vision of Skullport. This is the first time we've seen or really even heard of Skullport, the piratical city beneath Waterdeep, in 5th edition, and a lot has changed between Skullport in 4th edition and Skullport in 5th edition, or it has the potential to anyway. Skullport got its teeth kicked in during the Spell Plague in 4th edition. It was a ghost town, completely abandoned. The roof had basically fallen down on top of it, crushing everything. Even the Xanathar fled. And so, nothing was left until issue 200 of Dungeon Magazine related that someone had found mithril down there, and people had these gold rush style excursions had begun happening down in Skullport, and basically everything got built back up again. And so I thought, well, what a fantastic opportunity to really reimagine what Skullport is. And I really love my idea of Skullport, but it seems like the direction Wizards wanted to go was with a more classic style, and I can't fault them for that. I received a very interesting comment that said, my Skullport sounded a lot like, I'm blanking on this fantasy-ass name, but it's a major drow metropolis in the Greyhawk setting. It's called Erle Sinlu. Is that it? Erle Sinlu?
Mm-hmm.
And it's this this very sprawling, cosmopolitan, Las Vegas-like underground city where all folks are welcome, even if, drow won't kill you on sight if you go to Erle Sinlu. And it's the city of pleasure, they call it. It's still very Lawfite, but there is a lot of very hedonistic stuff happening there. And so I thought, well, let's make Skullport into a city of lights and wealth, and sort of a dark, hedonistic mirror of what Waterdeep could be if perhaps a villain of some sort gets a tremendous amount of money and influence. Mm-hmm. And also stick the Xanathar on top of the rubble, top of the heap in his palace, as sort of Jabba the Hutt meets an autocratic 1984-like dictator. He's got propaganda posters everywhere. And so I'm still hopeful that that vision of the autocratic Las Vegas-like den of inequity can appear somewhere. I'm definitely not done with that idea. Just Skullport was not the exact right place for it, because we needed to find space.
If anybody watching is wondering, the Guts and Garters is on page 308 of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's run by a tiefling named Quietude. Can you tell us anything more about Quietude, or are you not?
Well, damn, we were talking before the show began, can we reuse any content that was cut from Waterdeep Dragon Heist? And the answer is regrettably no. I would love to publish that stuff in a Guild Adepts capacity or a DM's Guild capacity.
Thought we were going to get a Waffle Talk scoop.
I have written a little bit on D&D about how to expand the quest hooks involved in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and I have suggested giving Durnan and Quietude a past history together. They're both major bartenders above and below Waterdeep. So if you're looking to expand Skullport into at least something of a safe haven into your players, for your players, play up the relationship that doesn't exist in the text. It's non-textual, but create a relationship between Durnan and Quietude.
There are questions for the Jameses. Ramisis asks, where did you get your monocles, and how hard is it to keep those on your face?
An Introcaso question.
So I bought them online. Another James fact that you'll know is that James, I live outside of Philadelphia, so Joey stayed with me for PAX Unplugged. And so knowing that we were going to play GIF, I bought these monocles for us online. They were like $2.50 or something, very cheap.
Wow.
And I am surprised at how well they stay in my face, I would say. I thought like I'd hold it for a little bit and then just take it off and be done. But they stay, I think I kept it in and out pretty much the
Yeah.
entire episode. So
To anyone who has not worn or really looked closely at a monocle before, they aren't just a circle. They have these little ridges in them. My webcam won't focus on it, but you can see it. And those rest underneath your brow, underneath the bones of your eye socket, and sort of atop your cheek muscles. And so you don't have to do that, sort of Bond villain squint where you're doing that. If it's sized right, it will fit naturally.
yeah.
Nice.
And I think we were lucky that these randomly purchased ones happened to fit on our faces.
We didn't have unusually large or small eye sockets for them to fall out.
Remisis also asks, were you told by Chris to keep the Rock of Brawl hush-hush, or is it general policy not to discuss outer space with the locals?
I think we were told by Hegemon, right? To
Either Hegemon or the Major.
Or the Major to keep the Rock of Brawl hush hush. And I know whenever it came up, there was sort of this general like, don't talk about it. So I think that's really the idea is that, and it does seem to be like it's general policy that you don't go around telling people you're from outer space.
Yeah. If you, however, dear viewer, are interested in the Rock of Brawl, it is fairly well detailed. There is a source book named after it, Rock of Brawl, for the Spelljammer setting that came out, in the 90s, 92. I don't know if it's on the DM's Guild. I would be actually a little bit surprised if it were. But maybe we can persuade someone to get a good scan of that, see if we can acquire one and get it up on the DM's Guild. That would be fun.
That I think on that old Spelljammer site by Paul Westermeyer, he says Rock of Brawl is the best Spelljammer product that they put out. So
wouldn't you know it? It is already on the DM's Guild.
Hey, how much
and
was
it's
it? Like
only $5.
$5. $5.
I mean, come on.
That's pretty sweet. Saima, technically our own world is in the universe of the Waffle Crew. It's only divided by a very damaged, ever-crumbling wall of the fourth kind. That's true.
Yeah.
Paulton can see into our multiverse.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually something that's been established even before Paulton. Elminster and a couple other wizards used to go to Ed Greenwood's home and chat with him. So, and as Shauna pointed out earlier, the Ack Inc. crew has been to Wizards of the Coast headquarters.
And fun fact, Elminster's favorite drink is canonically Mountain Dew.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
Mountain Dew.
So there, we are part of this multiverse, I guess. Not part of the magic multiverse. Maybe we're our own multiverse. Part of the Om Nom Nom verse, though.
Yeah. I think there are actually a ton of links between Earth and the Forgotten Realms. The name Forgotten Realms was, in a very Tolkienian Middle-earth way, sort of created to describe realms that Earth forgot. And I don't quite remember where this is. But one of the eastern nations of the Forgotten Realms, a neighbor of the nation of Thay, famous for its evil red wizards, is ruled by Egyptian gods, I believe, or vassals of the gods. So there's some direct and not insignificant overlap between Earth and Toril. And if you really start to pull at that thread, you can get some really neat campaign ideas out of there. I love fish out of water, through the wardrobe, through the looking glass sort of fantasy stories. And the potential for that in the Forgotten Realms is tremendously underutilized. I think there's some cool stuff you can do there. Perhaps Warner Brothers is doing that with their upcoming D&D movie. You never know. Yeah. Hollywood loves those kind of stories.
There you go. Seth Rogen and James Franco playing themselves get sucked into the Forgotten Realms and
oh my god,
that's nuts.
Into the Forgotten Realms. You better hope that you are a PC and not an NPC, because that's bad.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's true. And you better hope that Chris Perkins is not your DM. So
actually, I just realized I was looking up Rock of Brawl, and the reason why it's so damn good and well loved is because Richard Baker, no relation to Keith Baker of Eberron, but Rich Baker, who made the Red Hand of Doom in 3rd edition, who made the D&D starter set adventure Lost Mine of Phandelver, is also the author of that book. There is a high pedigree of creation going into this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He also wrote on Princes of the Apocalypse.
Yes, that's right.
Sasquatch Game Studio is his studio. So,
Hey,
yeah.
if you two could pick one author, RPG author, that is your favorite, who would it be?
Whew.
James Introcaso. Done.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
Yay. That's nice.
Yeah. I mean, it is really hard to pick a favorite, and I think everybody has such amazing products, and there's really great stuff out there, and there's so many great products beyond the world of D&D too, that it's like when we open up the pool to, you know, the Robin D. Lawses and the Kenneth Heights and, you know, the Emily Care bosses of the world, we are really getting into territory where it's like trying to choose a favorite child.
Yeah. I mean, I could say Chris Perkins and no one would blink an eye at it. Chris is tremendous, as everyone in the D&D world knows. And I feel the pressure to say someone less obvious and a little more of a hipstery choice.
I don't know who's the hipster. Yeah. Who's the hipster's favorite RPG author? I don't know who that would be.
Oh man, you'd want to look into the OSR for the hipster's favorite RPG author.
But I do think it's true. Like, Chris has had a tremendous influence on the game and a tremendous influence on the way people write now. And there's a reason his name is known, and it's because he's very, very good at what he does, and
prolific too.
Yeah. Super prolific, and you know, like his title is like principal story designer. That's amazing. That's an incredible title.
We got. Let me catch up on all these comments real quick. Look at Troopa. I'm not super familiar with Forgotten Realms, but doesn't keeping Brawl under wraps have to do with the Harpers or wanting to stagger technological progress? Could be. I don't.
Oh, that's interesting.
Phoenixy Waki. First time live. Hello from Japan.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you very
Welcome.
much.
Hello.
Thanks for jumping in. Ravenna Elminster also put the kibosh on what's his name? Morty's apprentice. Trying bubble gum.
Bigby, right? Isn't Bigby Mordenkainen's apprentice?
He was, yeah, in the real game. Yeah, there was like Bigby, Digby, Rigby. There's like Sigby, Grigbyson or something like that. D&D was D&D from like the very beginning. It's so funny. And I think Gary Mordenkainen had 2 pet dragons that were named Gorky and Porky. Which is okay, you know. So Scotty asks, didn't the original Thayans steal humans from ancient Earth's Egypt for slaves way back when?
That might have been what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
yes.
That may very well be the case. So Thay has some definitely not great history when it comes to owning other people. So
it's the nation of Mulhorand. Look up Mulhorand in your old Forgotten Realms books.
Oh, right.
Cool.
Right, yeah.
The Thay's ancient nemesis, in fact. Yeah.
Look at Troopa. The way I treat Earth in D&D is that it's the setting of both Mask of the Red Death and Gamma World with some D20 modern sprinkled in. And Look at Troopa would go with Zeb Cook, who's like the most humble guy. I watched an interview with him. So self-deprecating.
Yeah, that's a damn good choice.
Yeah, Zeb Cook, man. Like 2nd edition. That's when I started pretty much 2nd edition, and man, it was awesome. Although, you know, looking back, you know, if you try to play 2nd edition now, it's really weird. But at the time, I really like Thaco. Yeah. Once you get Thaco in your head, like it never goes. It's like riding a bike; like you never forget. Sure. But getting people to understand it was always tricky, you know.
Yeah, big barrier to entry, and it's one of those things that I think is easy to look back and laugh on now. But that was before we had come up with the very simple, like, roll a d20, and if it overcomes AC, right? It's
Yeah.
think about having to start from scratch, you might have come up with something just as convoluted.
D&D's roots are very tangled all at the bottom. The systems don't really make any sense to us nearly 50 years later. Can you guys believe that we're coming up in not too far a time on D&D's 50th anniversary?
Oh,
Can you
wow.
even begin to speculate on what Wizards of the Coast will pull out for the silver anniversary,
Oh,
golden
wow.
anniversary, for the 50-year anniversary of their game?
Wow.
Oh my god.
I didn't think of that.
I can't even think of what they're gonna do.
A real mind flare.
Ah.
Yeah.
a real. All right, we're out of time. Do you have any final thoughts, either of you, that you want to share about your your dice camera action experience? How was it? Did you love it?
Oh, tremendous. It was a blast. Holly Conrad has just moved to my city, to Seattle. And so I've seen her a little bit outside of the show. And so being able to finally be on the show with her is delightful.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. Really, really grateful. And I laughed super hard the entire time. So thank you to everybody in chat who was so kind about it. And, obviously everybody for having us on. That was great. And thanks to the two of you for letting us come here on Waffle Talk. This was great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on. It's really appreciate it. It's awesome. And thanks to everybody in chat for all the awesome comments and questions. You make it a bajillion times better. So thank you very much. So I think we're going to wrap it up once I can turn this thing off. So Sean, you got any final thoughts you want to share? Did you love it?
It was delightful of seeing them on there, seeing them interact with everybody, and the option for them to come back as GIF, and it was wonderful. And thank you all for coming.
All right, everybody. See you next time.